What if I told you that the most shocking story in religious history has been hidden from you? A truth so powerful that the church has tried to keep it secret for centuries. The real story of what happened to Adam and Eve after they left Eden. A tale of spiritual warfare, divine encounters, and a battle for humanity's soul that was deliberately removed from Western Bibles. You see, while most of us know about the Garden of Eden and the fall of mankind, what happened next has been carefully concealed. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible preserves an ancient text, the Book of Adam and Eve, that reveals the heart-wrenching journey of humanity's first family after paradise. Imagine the moment, Adam and Eve, standing outside Eden's sealed gates, the flaming sword of the cherubim blocking their return. For the first time, they felt cold. They experienced hunger. The perfect world they knew had become hostile and unforgiving. But what happened next would shake the foundations of everything we thought we knew about faith, redemption, and spiritual warfare. This isn't just another Bible story. This is about a battle that still rages today. A battle that affects your prayers, your relationship with God, and your spiritual destiny. The ancient manuscripts reveal that Satan didn't stop at the garden. His attacks on Adam and Eve became more intense, more personal, and more devastating than anything recorded in Genesis. Did you know that Satan appeared to them as an angel of light, trying to trick them into taking their own lives? Or that Adam and Eve's repentance was so profound that they stood in freezing rivers for days, crying out to God for mercy? These details were purposefully removed from Western Bibles because they expose something too powerful for religious authorities to control. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church has preserved these texts for centuries, protecting them from those who would try to keep this knowledge hidden. Why? Because these manuscripts reveal patterns of spiritual warfare and divine protection that still work today. They show us why some prayers break through while others seem to hit a ceiling. But here's what makes this truly shocking. The Book of Adam and Eve contains prophecies and spiritual principles that are more relevant now than ever before. As our world grows darker, as spiritual attacks become more intense, these ancient texts offer hope and strategies that most believers have never heard of. Think about it. Why would religious authorities want to keep this information from you? What were they afraid you might discover? The truth is, Adam and Eve's story didn't end with their exile from Eden. It was just beginning. And what they learned about spiritual warfare, divine protection, and the power of true repentance could transform your entire relationship with God. Their journey from paradise became a blueprint for spiritual victory that Satan has tried to keep hidden for generations. Every trial they faced, every battle they fought was preparing humanity for the spiritual warfare we face today. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church protected these texts because they knew future generations would desperately need this wisdom. What you're about to discover isn't just history. It's a revelation that could change everything you thought you knew about prayer, spiritual authority, and your place in God's plan. The real question is, are you ready to handle the truth that's been kept from you for so long? The ancient manuscripts reveal something even more shocking about Adam and Eve's exile. While Genesis tells us they were cast out of Eden, the Ethiopian texts show us the devastating spiritual attacks they endured. Satan, furious at their continued faith, launched a campaign of psychological warfare that would make modern spiritual battles seem tame. Picture this: Satan, appearing as a being of pure light, approaches Eve with tears in his eyes. "I too was cast from paradise," he lies, "but I found a way back in. Let me help you return to God's presence." This deception was so convincing, so carefully crafted, that it nearly led to tragedy. The enemy knew their deepest longing was to return to Eden, and he weaponized that desire against them. But here's where it gets even more intense. The Book of Adam and Eve describes how Satan, disguised as an angel of light, tried to convince them that throwing themselves from a cliff would prove their devotion to God and earn their way back into paradise. This wasn't just temptation, it was a direct assault on their will to live, their hope for redemption. The manuscripts reveal that Adam and Eve's response to these attacks transformed them from victims into spiritual warriors. They developed spiritual disciplines so powerful that the enemy couldn't break their faith. Standing in freezing rivers for days, they cried out to God with such intensity that the waters themselves seemed to tremble with their prayers. Their repentance wasn't just about feeling sorry, it was about warfare. Every tear they shed, every prayer they lifted, became a weapon against the darkness. The Ethiopian texts show us that they discovered something modern believers desperately need to understand. True repentance isn't just about forgiveness, it's about spiritual authority. But Satan's attacks grew more intense. When he couldn't break their faith through deception, he turned to their physical needs. The manuscripts describe how he would cause their food to vanish, their water to become bitter, and their shelter to collapse. Every day became a battle not just for survival, but for their very souls. What they learned through these trials became a blueprint for spiritual victory that religious authorities have tried to suppress. Why? Because it reveals that ordinary believers, through genuine repentance and unwavering faith, can access levels of spiritual authority that institutional religion can't control. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church preserved these accounts because they knew future generations would face similar battles. The spiritual warfare techniques Adam and Eve developed aren't just historical curiosities. They're weapons waiting to be rediscovered by modern believers facing their own battles against darkness. Think about your own spiritual struggles, the unanswered prayers, the feeling of hitting an invisible wall in your relationship with God. What if the answer isn't in modern teaching, but in these ancient manuscripts that show us how humanity's first family overcame the enemy's most devastating attacks? But there's something even more profound in these texts, something that explains why some believers seem to break through while others remain stuck. Adam and Eve discovered a pattern of spiritual authority that would change everything we thought we knew about prayer and spiritual warfare. What they learned about the power of true repentance would shake the foundations of modern religious teaching. The Book of Adam and Eve reveals an even more profound truth about spiritual warfare that the enemy doesn't want you to know. When Adam and Eve lost their first son, Abel, to Cain's murderous rage, Satan thought he'd finally broken them. But what happened next would change the course of spiritual history forever. Imagine the scene. Adam and Eve, already devastated by exile from paradise, now faced the ultimate parent's nightmare. One son dead, the other consumed by darkness. The manuscripts show that Satan appeared to them again, whispering that God had abandoned them completely. "See," he taunted, "your children bear the curse of your sin. There's no hope left." But in that moment of deepest darkness, something extraordinary happened. The Ethiopian texts reveal that Adam and Eve discovered a level of spiritual authority that comes only through complete brokenness. Their tears of repentance became more powerful than ever before. The ground that had drunk Abel's blood became holy ground as they poured out their hearts to God. What they learned in this season of grief transformed their understanding of spiritual warfare. They discovered that the enemy's greatest attacks often come disguised as overwhelming loss. But here's the shocking truth. It was precisely in this moment of total devastation that they accessed a level of divine power that Satan couldn't stand against. The manuscripts show that after Abel's death, Adam and Eve's prayers changed. They weren't just crying out for mercy anymore. They were wielding spiritual authority that made the enemy tremble. Their brokenness became their breakthrough. Every tear they shed was like holy water, cleansing the ground that sin had cursed. But here's what makes this truly remarkable. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church preserved these accounts because they reveal a pattern of spiritual victory that works in any generation. When Adam and Eve lost everything, their paradise, their son, their hopes, they discovered something the enemy had tried desperately to hide. True power comes through surrendered brokenness. Think about your own losses, your own heartbreaks. The Ethiopian texts show us that these aren't just tragedies, they're potential turning points in spiritual authority. Adam and Eve's journey proves that our deepest wounds, when surrendered to God, become weapons that the enemy can't defend against. The birth of their son Seth wasn't just a replacement for Abel. It was a sign that God's redemptive power is stronger than any loss. The manuscripts reveal that Seth was born with a special marking, a physical sign, that he carried a spiritual authority his brothers never had. This was the lineage through which the Messiah would come. But Satan's attacks didn't stop. If anything, they intensified. The enemy knew that Adam and Eve had discovered something dangerous to his kingdom, the power of sanctified sorrow. Their tears weren't just expressions of grief anymore. They had become weapons of warfare that could break through spiritual barriers. What they learned about transforming loss into spiritual authority was so powerful that it had to be preserved in these ancient texts. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church protected these manuscripts because they knew future generations would need to understand. Our deepest wounds, when surrendered to God, become the very tools that defeat the enemy's plans. The Ethiopian manuscripts reveal the most profound aspect of Adam and Eve's journey, their final years, and the spiritual legacy they left behind. What they discovered about divine authority and redemption in their last days was so powerful that it had to be hidden from future generations, until now. The texts show that as Adam and Eve grew older, their spiritual authority actually increased. The enemy's attacks had only made them stronger. Every battle, every tear, every moment of surrender had transformed them from fallen sinners into spiritual giants whose prayers could shake the heavens. They weren't just surviving anymore, they were ruling in the spiritual realm. But here's what makes this truly extraordinary. In their final years, Adam and Eve began experiencing supernatural encounters that mirror what many believers report today. They saw visions of the coming Messiah so vivid, so detailed, that Satan launched his most desperate attacks to stop them from sharing these revelations with their descendants. The manuscripts describe how Adam, near the end of his life, gathered his children and grandchildren to pass on the spiritual secrets he and Eve had discovered. He spoke of spiritual laws they'd uncovered, principles of prayer, warfare, and divine authority that religious institutions have tried to keep hidden. These weren't just teachings. They were weapons forged in the fires of their exile. Think about this. Every unanswered prayer you've experienced, every spiritual battle you've lost, might be because these ancient principles of spiritual authority have been kept from you. Adam and Eve discovered that true power doesn't come from religious ritual, but from understanding the spiritual protocols they learned through their battles with darkness. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church preserved these accounts because they knew a time would come when believers would desperately need this ancient wisdom. That time is now. As our world grows darker, as spiritual attacks intensify, these long-hidden teachings about spiritual authority and divine protection are more crucial than ever. Adam and Eve's final revelation was the most powerful of all. They understood that their exile from Eden wasn't just punishment. It was preparation. Every trial, every tear, every moment of warfare was shaping them and their descendants for a level of spiritual authority that would ultimately defeat the enemy's kingdom. These manuscripts show us that Adam and Eve's story isn't just history, it's prophecy. The patterns of spiritual warfare they discovered, the principles of divine authority they uncovered, were preserved for such a time as this. Their journey from paradise became a blueprint for spiritual victory that's waiting to be rediscovered by believers today. The question is, are you ready to apply these ancient principles in your own life? Are you prepared to access the level of spiritual authority that Adam and Eve discovered through their trials? Their story isn't just about what was lost in Eden. It's about what can be regained through understanding these powerful truths. If this message has touched your heart, share it with others who need this revelation. Subscribe and turn on notifications to receive more hidden truths from ancient manuscripts that could transform your spiritual life. Let us know in the comments how this understanding of Adam and Eve's journey has impacted your faith. Together, we're uncovering the spiritual authority that the enemy never wanted you to discover.